created a lot of issues, so the state opened up a lot of different services online
right.
that we didn't have before that, so that also cuts down on the.
On transactions. So now you can do title work, you can do CDLs online, you can do pretty much everything online. So that does hurt the transactions coming into our office.
Do you think we're competing with the state for transactions if we're?
I don't think we're competing with them. I really don't. I think it, like you say, if it's first the service, then we are providing the service that this community needs. So,
But a lot of these fly-by-nights are starting to shut down. You know,
Yeah,
states-
the Roadrunner and all those.
That's gonna enhance that one-on-one stuff. A lot of people like that quickie having to do that. And they go to these places, and I've heard fees as high as $75 to do a driver's license. You know, I wouldn't against at all you raising the fees for what we're doing, you know, and that just helps generate it. But if we can justify half day or even, you know, another full-time employee if you need it. I mean, I would say that I would like to see it, at least give it a try. That would be my
Right,
recommendation.
and Mr. Mayor, my thought here with a full-time employee, kind of understanding what has gone on with NPD over the years is that vacations. If you got that full-timer, then you got vacations covered, where a part-timer doesn't do that for you. It helps you do the schedule, but when somebody else is sick or on vacation, then you're behind,
that is true.
right?
That is
And
very true.
that's why I was pushing for a full-time employee.
And if that's what it is, then a full-time, you know, that is perfectly fine with me.
Well, and you were also just talking about expanding your road tests and.
Yes, so I started this week. Instead of just doing road testing in the morning, we're doing 6 in the morning and 6 in the afternoon. So we're gonna see how well that works out as well, because we've had a lot of callers calling in, wanting to come in after school. Of course, it's a little late to do those at 3:30 in the afternoon, so we're trying to accommodate some of that. So we're gonna try that. I'm gonna try that for at least a month and see how it comes in. See how we can get some more people coming in as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, well, it's a service, right?
Yep.
The better we can serve the community, I think everybody wins.
Any other comments?
I don't hear complaints, I don't hear good job, I don't hear anything either way about it, so, but if you guys are hearing where the community needs it, I do as much as I can online, just because it's, but I do just, you know, renewals and stuff,
Yeah,
the
it's
easy
easier.
stuff. Yeah, it's just easier, but if there is a portion of the population that likes to go in,
Yeah, you
a portion of the population.
Careful.
But no, I mean, if it's out there, and I just don't want to ask them to, even like a trial thing, or will let us know, we need to give them that
Give-
person, you know. we
Give them a
just- with the
person and
budget.
look at it in a year.
in a year, yeah. Let's go.
And see where we are.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I'm looking at it.
But we just need to remember come budget time that we asked them to do it, and that's why it's
Exactly.
where it's at.
Yeah, because even right now, we can't do, I mean, we wouldn't be able to even do really an experiment because we don't have the
Right.
overtime budget to accommodate that because she
Right.
shifts everything around. So it's not like we could say, well, we'll just use overtime to
We'll start next
adjust.
Alright.
Yeah.
Jim?
During your day, with the additional work you've picked up from dealers and such, do you have any downtimes, or even Friday, or you pretty much have a workload that you always have something to work on with your people?
There's always something to work on in there. There's not
One
much of a
the
downtime.
Suggestions that I had heard was that you're doing some of this already, but it's a different marketing approach. And so you've done that with social media and with the dealerships and calling. But another one I was introduced to was some kind of a sign somewhere, I don't know if it's across from Blake's, and it says MVD waiting 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes, so that if you don't have a long stack, some people would just drop in. I don't know if it's worth the effort to do that. It just was a thought that I was exploring, that's all.
Somehow to just let the community know that right now there's not a lot of wait or something.
Like right now, I can get there and I'm not gonna wait, because I do get a number of people who complain that I have to go to Farmington and I have to make an appointment and blah, 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 and they get waited on quickly, but they need it done now, or they're at the end of the rope or at the end of the registration deadline time and but anyway, it's just a thought.
Personally, I live in Farmington. I don't know why anyone would ever go to DPD over there versus ours.
Bloomfield's the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get more people complaining about Bloomfield and Farmington
Yep.
than they do the little fly-by-night places, you know, and, I just think we need to give it the opportunity.
I do.
In my mind. Kobe, you got a thought process with it?
I'm like Austin, I don't hear much complaints about the MVD. When I need to go in there, I've gone in there. I haven't needed to go in a while.
So to accommodate a full person, you need an adjustment to your budget for
Yes.
personnel line item.
Yes, sir.
So, are we looking to maybe start something now? Would you like that, Mayor, or,
you want
wait
to
till
start in
budget,
July,
or?
I think we need to work it out in the budget.
Okay.
You know, and start looking, I think it needs to fit into the budget myself, and we can make those decisions at that point in time, but, you know, working, and it's admirable, Rhonda, that you are trying to get the dealerships and stuff. 40-some years in the automobile industry, that's a biggie, and people really like that service. So, that's one reason when the state decided to take it away from the city of city of Aztec, when myself and, I lost his name, Dial, him and I went to Santa Fe, Dick Dial and I went to Santa Fe and said, but it was run under, a whole different department. And taking the statistics and showing some of the letters that we took down there, they automatically decided, no, you can't shut it down. That's one reason that you're in the facility you are, because they didn't like the facility we were in. So the city got together and we built that facility on the utilities so we could have that accommodation. But, you know, that would be, my recommendation is that work it into the budget if you can. You know, if it's not feasible, let us know, that too, but that would be my recommendation.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
one question. I haven't actually heard staff's opinion on that.
Our staff,
Just staff and the,
they
Joe,
won't
Rhonda.
be happy. They don't wanna work on Friday.
Okay.
They like the 410s. But like I told them, if we're here to provide a service, that is what we are here for.
Okay.
I really have not asked them now. Back when this did come up last year, I did have a couple of clerks state that if we didn't have more staff, that they would quit. So then we're back to understaffing, and then you're back to not being able to do that. So, you know, that's just where, I just have not asked them that question lately.
And the problem is, I asked them, you were gone,
Okay.
and they just give me well, at my old job, I used to work 6 days a week, so this is better than it was, and you know what I mean? They're just giving me the answer that they think that I want to hear, so I didn't get much of a response from them, but like I said, I think, if we just understand that this is a service that we're gonna provide to the city and it's gonna cost us some money, then it is what it is, but, I don't know. We're just gonna have to see what tomorrow will bring on Fridays, and if, you know, if this is gonna bring in a lot more transactions, or, I don't know. So, but,
Well, I'm positive that the numbers will come up.
yeah,
And that you'll start doing Fridays as much as you are on Thursday or Wednesday, right? But people just gotta understand that now we're open on Fridays, right? We gotta get that word out, right? And I love what you said. We could get a billboard somewhere that said, 5-minute wait at MVD, come on in. That would be awesome.
Well, and that's one of the things I did say, you know, there's no signage anywhere here in Aztec. You go, coming from Durango, there's nothing that says that there's an MVD office here in Aztec. Coming from Bloomfield, there's no sign. There's no signage. So if we could get signs somewhere saying that we do have an MVD office and that these are their hours, that might make a difference.
I agree.
All I'm hearing is we can budget for a digital billboard to put on Aztec Boulevard.
Heck yeah.
It'll
I'm
be-
all over that.
Joe, would it be vandalized?
We'll have to talk to community
We'll
development,
put it
see if
high
it's
enough,
okay.
hopefully.
The climate.
I mean, do we own this lot across the
No.
lakes? That's not ours, is it?
No.
That, cause that'd be perfect for a city
When
billboard.
When we subdivided for O'Reilly's, I was adamant that we should have made us get that corner lot as part of the utilities that we were giving, the developer.
Oh, yes, right.
And then that way, that, with that corner lot, we could have put a digital signage out there.
Yeah, because we always, even when we put our sign over there, I call her and ask for permission to put it there.
Okay.
I can't remember what her name is that owns the
Yeah.
property now.
Yeah.
Burgess was the original property owner, but it was the developer that we should have.
Worked
had
with.
them- Yeah,
Yeah.
worked with, getting that,
Yeah.
because it required Burgess to subdivide it.
Okay, cool. I'm done.
Done? Did you get all you wanted from staff?
That, well, I kinda knew the answer, but
I did too.
there was gonna be some upset people about it. So just curious.
I can work, I mean, I can make it work, it's just, additional staff is gonna have to be, you know, if it's gonna be for the service, the additional staff has to be there.
What's your training, how long did it take you to get somebody trained if this is in the budget to get somebody,
Fully trained, almost a year.
unless you could find somebody with the motor
Yeah, with
vehicle
that.
experience? And that doesn't work.
But that does, yes, I was just gonna say that. I prefer to hire somebody that does not have any
Bad habits?
bad habits. Bring them in fresh and you train them the way you want them trained and the production comes.
Well, I can tell you right now, from my experience over there, you got some good trained, nice, wonderful people. They are all excellent.
Yes.
Yeah. Welcome people when they came in the door. I mean, it was just night and day from other places.
And again, like you said, it's important to have the right number of people, because then if we end up where we're short or whatever, then the service goes down, like she said, because then people are back to waiting and get aggravated and all that, so.
Right.
Well, and
Just
it's
a
just
fine
like
line.
even now, you know, during cold season, flu season, you get short-staffed. And
People
you
get
just have to,
sick.
yep, you just have to work around it, but the more you have, it's a little bit easier to work around that.
Can that be worked into the budget?
Well, I heard that we were talking about the July budget, but if you wanted to do it now, we certainly could bring you a budget transfer and put some money in that budget to get her started, if you want to do it today.
Well, I think a dollar amount would be
Yeah,
before we
we'll
do.
work
I'd like to
on it.
know a dollar amount before we start doing that, but
Certainly, we could bring that forward to you, and then it would be just a
we're
matter
not
of
that
adjusting.
far away to July
July.
anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Start it in the new budget, put it in the budget, and
Yeah.
then start it in July and
That's what I
go
was,
another year and see how it goes.
that's what I'm thinking also.
We'll put it in and we'll discuss it as we're going along, looking at the different sections of the budget over time here and see how it impacts.
Well, and two, if it comes to, you find somebody that fits your needs even sooner than that, then we can always go back and amend
Right.
and do a budget transfer to move somebody
Yeah,
in.
if somebody comes in the door tomorrow, I wanna work for you.
Well, I was just gonna say,
A
when,
shining
you know,
star.
you gotta have that interview process and get them started,
Exactly.
so that's,
That'll meet your time frame closer if we wait till then anyway, won't it?
if I can get someone that interviews just like Emmanuel and Amy and Linda and get them in there, they learned very quick. But Manny's just about fully trained now and he's been there a full year.
Does that kind of give you some direction?
Yes, sir.
Jeff?
I think it's very clear.
Okay,
Thank you.
anything else, guys? We'll close this workshop and we'll get ready to do the record meeting.
Thank you.
This is-
hit your car.
Yep. Well, that's general fund, revenue. It's going.
City regular meeting to order March 26th. It is now 6:02. Tonight our invocation will be led by Commissioner Randall and our pledge by the Mayor Pro Tem.
Pray with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this wonderful day, Lord, and the opportunity we have to live in this fine city. Thank you so much again for the moisture you brought to our area, and keep it coming. We ask that you be with us tonight as we make decisions on behalf of the city of Aztec and help us to keep the city's best interests at heart, Lord. Please continue to be with our law enforcement, our employees, and our military. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and the state of tradition and culture.
I don't see a presentation on this. Carla, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Padilla?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Ford?
Here.
Commissioner King?
Present.
Commissioner Kelly?
Here.
Commissioner Randall?
Here.
All present?
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve agenda items tonight.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the consent agenda polling items E, G, and H for discussion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for a vote on the motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, pulling items E, G, and H. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Then we'll move on to resolution, which is item E, Resolution 2024-1419, authorizing city manager or his or her designee to invest monies in local short-term investment funds for the city. I'll open that up for discussion.
I personally had some questions on that as well. Some of the rationale behind that. I mean, I'm a big proponent of the transparency, especially when it comes to taxpayer funds. So I'd just like to get an understanding of.
All right, and it mostly has to do with the CDs, because when the CDs move over and we try to get the best possible rate, you have to call a few weeks before to get what they project it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then when you bring it to the commission and you get it approved and you go back to get those CDs, sometimes it's not that amount. The amount has changed. So my thought was when those roll over, we would reinvest them, and then we would come back to the commission and tell them what we had done, rather than bring it to the commission first and then go back and do it.
Well, we saw this once before, where the CD rates that were proposed were significantly lower to what was actually available on the market. I mean, I think the difference at that time was like almost $80,000, so it's significant. I personally have some concern of just handing that over. I know that sometimes there is a delay, but over that same period of time, rates have not dropped. We've actually seen a slight increase in rates. And then I did pull the statute that was quoted in here, and what was included on the City of Aztec Board of Finance investment policy. Is that up to date from what the state's?
No.
Okay.
I don't believe it is because when I read the policy, I think that it states that the decision can be made by the city manager and the finance director. And when I look at the statute, and it talks about we have to invest our money where it's insured by the government, so our pledging covers that. So, and when it talks about putting it in the community evenly distributed, we don't use everybody in the community. We kind of pick and choose. Like I got Vector Bank and Wells Fargo. They ended up being lower, so we didn't put any money in them. So I think the policy does need to be updated if we want to go that route. So I think the policy could be updated. It's a very old policy. And one of the reasons too for bringing the resolution is as I'm finding these old policies, I like to bring them back to the commission and make sure that this is still what you want. Because sometimes things may have happened between when the policy was done and when it is now, and we're not really following policies. And unless I bring those back, I don't really know what you want today.
I was concerned when I went to the state's website and found that this policy has since been updated, and there's language in what was included in our packet that no longer exists at this point in time, on statute 610-36. It seemed to be very old, though, a very old policy. I just don't want to find us, setting a bad precedent in the future to, other commissions as well. Is there a way to bring anything that's maturing, ahead of time, 2 weeks in advance, if it's a timing issue, to the commission, just so we don't have a situation where, we're putting the onus on the city manager or the designee, where they take all of the liability if they, because the new policy, I think, states is a certain percentage below current market rates. And we would have been in that case 7 months ago. I mean, we would have violated, the policy at that point in time, the state statute.
It certainly is.
Okay.
Because I normally know, I know as soon as I get the CD when it's going to mature. We have some coming up in June. I think they're in June and August, around that time period. So I can certainly bring those a couple weeks before. And in my resolution, I normally say approximately this amount because it may not be that amount
Understand.
when I get it there. So I have no problem with that. And I have no problem with rewriting the policy too and bringing it back and trying to get it more updated because it is an old policy.
Okay.
Anything else?
Ken?
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
thank you. A couple of items. The way this is written, and you tell me if I'm wrong, is that we're shifting power from the commission down to the manager and his designee. Am I correct in that?
I think the policy already states that.
Okay, well, I don't care for that. I don't know how the rest of the commission feels, but this is the public's funds, and I think we should be open to the public every time a CD comes to mature, and we're telling the public, this is exactly what we're doing with your money and how we're gonna invest it. I think it's just good, open policy, that this goes away and we come up with something different, and this board, which is the Board of Finance, approves what we're doing with public money every time we play with it. That's where I'm at.
Anybody else have any other comments? Jim?
I tend to agree with Ken. I'm not sure how it works out because there's some logistics that don't happen easily. And maybe it's that we do a interim
meeting where we at least need a quorum, that
We are presently doing that. I presently bring those resolutions
Right.
to the commission.
And that's why I asked if this changes power. Whether you had it before or not, we've always brought the years that I worked for the city to the commission for approval when we moved to CD. I mean, there was times where rates were nothing. I mean, we were getting 0.25% or something on CD, and the commission made the decision, hey, we'll just keep it back. We're not gonna put it in a CD, right? And we did that for a while. And then rates started going up and it was worth investing. But I can remember a time a person in your position said, it's not worth our time. I'm spending more time with staff than what we're gonna get in interest.
Anything else?
That's it, thank you.
I have some concerns on the same issue, and one of my concerns that I have, and I think I brought it to you 2 weeks ago, Jenny, I don't remember when it was that I took it to you, that everything was signed to transfer those CDs when they were brought to us from the bank, and I was concerned that they weren't proofread. And you remember me saying that because you had signed it, every one of the commissioners had signed it, I came in the next morning to sign it, and it had somebody totally different than me on that CD. So consequently, that makes me wonder what the banks have. So I think that this is something that we need to continue doing in my personal, and we'll have a vote on it, but in my personal mind, I think it still needs to be run through the commission for commission signature on those CDs, because ultimately, this elected body is the Board of Finance. That's the way that I look at it. Any other comments? Any other discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the vote on Resolution 2024-1419, authorizing city manager or his or her designee to invest monies in long, short-term investment funds for the city of Aztec. Carter, will you call the roll?
Commissioner King?
No.
Commissioner Crowley?
No.
Excuse me?
No.
Commissioner Randall?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem George?
No.
Mayor Padilla?
No.
Motion denied.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to item G, which is Aztec Highlands Game Memorandum of Agreement. Can you ask for this to be pulled?
I did, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was looking through this agreement and I cannot believe we would enter into anything like this. This allows a city employee to have control of a bank account of an entity that's not the city. I worked for the city for 23 years, and I never have seen an agreement such as this one. Typically, what would happen is the city, when we would take over something like this or work with somebody like this, the department would have a line item budget. Okay, Highland Games. You've got X amount of money in there, let's say $15,000. The department would go do their thing, and at the end, they'd total it all up, and they'd send the entity an invoice to be reimbursed. This does not make any sense to me.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, Commission, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem specifically, this 501c3 really benefits this event because it enables us to get donations. They came to us a year and a half ago and begged us to help because it was going to dissolve. They were not going to be able to do the event. They were tired.
Yes, and you brought that to this commission.
Right, we brought that to this commission. We operated that way, this exact same way last year, in that we had a city employee that was spending money out of this Citizens Bank account. They are a signer on the account. They're not the only signer on the account. And it works so that there is seed money to get the event going, and the money is made back through the event. It's really difficult for us to get a lot of these big ticket donations for music acts, and even Serrano's toilets. It's difficult to get those through the city, but it's easier to get it through a 501c3.
So, well, I don't know, and I would like to talk to our attorney about this, because I just see a bunch of red flags where there's funds being shifted and from private to public and public back to private. I mean, it just doesn't set well with me.
Mayor Pro Tem, so I reviewed this contract. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sorry. I reviewed the contract and I reviewed last year's contract. That provision regarding this employee's relationship with that account was the same that you all approved last year.
Yeah, well, I didn't catch it last year. I caught it this year.
Okay. So I assume that you were okay with the practice. I don't see anything illegal about it. There's no money moving into the city's general fund except at the end of the event, only if there's a net revenue. So all of the funds related to this event stay in that private account until at the end of the day when there's an audit and accounting, and the way Mr. Dobie structured this, it appears that there will be an audit or an accounting at the end, and the parties have agreed to divvy it up a certain way at the end. Only then does money move into the general fund account of the city. So there's no movement back and forth. It stays with the private entity, and at the end of the day, if it's successful, you get some cash.
So, well, once again, I mean, this is not how government operates. You are doing something for a special event, and you should have a line item budget for that special event. That's the way government operates, right? That you have men, you got supplies, you have all this stuff that you're taking public funds and manpower and putting it into this, right? So therefore, my idea is there should be a line item in the budget for it, you get funded for it, and then you get reimbursed that funding after the event.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, that is the way that we're going to do it with any revenue that's generated above this 15,300. That 15,300 is the balance that was brought to the table that they said we could use to get the event going. Anything that's over that, then we invoice, comes to the city, and it goes into an account just for that.
Right, but that is not what this reads. This reads that we have an employee able to go into their bank account, buy a supply, buy something, and that to me it just smells trouble. Somebody, oh, we're missing money. Where'd it go? Oh, well, the city employee took it, right? Or they lost the receipt. I could just see you pulling your hair out, and it ended up coming back to us, to the attorney. I just don't like this.
You know, one thing too that was brought up by the attorney was they're talking revenues. In this agreement, it also talks expenses, that if they lose money, I have not ever seen what Highland Games generates as a financial statement from them to because we're rolling the dice that we're gonna absorb 75% of their loss. And that states that in this contract. That has me a little bit concerned about, I mean, we can talk revenues, yeah, we may make 25% on revenues, but if they lose money, we're gonna pay 75% of what they lost. So that kind of makes me kind of wonder what.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, or Mr. Mayor, I'll tell you the history on that is, that was not in the original agreement. It got brought to my attention this year when we came back to renew this MOU, and the board was concerned for the same thing. Say it rains every day of the Highland Games and we're not able to make that money back. The truth of the matter is that we will just put the event on the next year with less money. So if we have 15,300 this year and then we only make 12,000 back, it says that we will pay 75%. But the fact of the matter is that we're going to put the event on with what we have, $12,000.
Okay, does it state that in this agreement?
No, it says that we will pay the 75% of the loss, they will pay 25% of the loss. Their concern, this was the great compromise, right? The 75-25 is because we went back and forth on this for like a month, Nan and I did, is trying to find a middle ground that they would be happy with, that the city would also be happy with. I can't tell you how the event is going to go with 100% certainty, but I can tell you in 1 year of the city putting it on, we made a profit. And that was our first year. We made a profit of $3,700
Okay.
over this $15,300, which we've already invoiced to them and they've already paid.
Okay.
So that was our first year. Unless there's catastrophic weather, I don't see how we're ever going to go backwards.
Well, it's a successful event. I mean, I don't think we're trying to question that.
No, and we want to support it.
Yeah.
Right? I just have real heartburn with the way this is set up. I can just see this thing blowing up in somebody's face. To me, we're mixing government funds with private funds under a contract that is, that I can't agree with.
I agree with you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, it's a very unique situation. It's something that I've never dealt with either, and it's the burden of the biggest event of the year.
Because all we're trying to do is cover our costs, right? We want to help support with your department and cover our costs, right? So I'm saying we give you a budget for the event in the budget, right? You go do your work, we send them a bill.
In respects to that, you are somewhat giving me a budget because you're paying for an event coordinator. We have matched this $15,300 already with the event coordinator. What we're using their money for is strictly their event. It's just to reserve
I
tents.
understand. Well, I think they need to keep their money in the bank until we're done. And then we invoice them, just like any other contract we would have with anybody, an engineer or whoever. And that keeps it separate, right?
I totally agree. We have these conversations a lot, Ron, and I do up and down the hallway is, do we spend this money on this? And it's like, we got to get the event going. We got to do this, and this is the seed money that we were given, and this is how we're going to operate. And if the commission sees it differently, please let me know.
Okay, I have one other question. In most of our agreements or most of our things that we do, it's signed off by commission. This is signed off by the city manager. Was there a reason for that?
That's simply how our attorney, Ms. Winters, wrote it at the end.
Okay, can you answer that question?
Mayor, repeat the question, please.
In most of our agreements or stuff that we've done with anybody else in the city of Aztec, it's always been signed off by the commission. And this is not signed off by the commission, it's signed off by you and the city manager. Is that, why are we changing that?
Oh, Mayor, I didn't catch that until just now. I see what you're talking about, the signature blocks. So in most strong manager forms of government, manager signs these contracts. However, you all, and so when I crafted this and cleaned it up, I put what I was used to. But I did subsequently find your ordinance, which says the mayor signs everything in this strong manager form of government.
Way macro.
I know. So I didn't catch that in here, but there's two other agreements on tonight's agenda where we've made it crystal clear that your signature is required.
Well, and I'm not saying just because I'm sitting in this position, I represent the commission when I sign off anything, and it's done by a voice vote. And I'll sign it once we have a majority approval. But I saw that, and I'm thinking, all our other agreements are signed off by the commission. And it may have my signature on it, but I'm signing on behalf of the commission. So,
I understood that's why I was bringing it before you for approval also.
so can you change that?
Mr. Mayor, assuming it passes this evening, I would of course change that.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
I make the motion that we do not approve the Highland Games Celtic Festival MOU, and that we work with our manager to set up a line item budget for this event, for the Parks Department, and to make sure this event goes and we keep within the procurement and the policies of the city.
Do I have a second? Again, I'll ask,
to restate that,
please restate that, Ken.
Okay? We're not going to approve this agreement. However, we're going to approve a budget for the Parks Department to run this event, and that at the end of the event, we will bill the festival for our money spent, making no profit for us, just covering our costs.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I think that we have an agenda item here, and that's out of the agenda, so we could give direction if we don't approve the MOU. So is that what you're saying, to not approve the MOU?
Not approve the MOU, correct?
And then give direction?
And give direction to the manager to, let's put it in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are you clarified now?
I think,
What do you think? Do I have a second?
Mayor, if I can,
Please.
just, Charles, is this holding anything up? Is this a time-sensitive agreement?
It's incredibly time sensitive. We're trying to get
You're
bands
trying to
booked.
spend the money,
We're
right?
trying to get the money,
Okay.
yeah,
That's all, thank you. That's the only question I have.
yeah. I would have loved to have had this to you at the 1st of February. Their board spun it around for a month, and I've only been able to get it to you on this agenda, so this is as soon as I could get it.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Please.
One quick question. Charles, I think the event went phenomenal last year, great event. The only change from what we approved last time on the MOU is the ratio. That's the only, and I've slept since then, but did we even have a ratio last time?
It was anything over the 15,300, we got 100% of it.
Okay. Were we on the hook for any losses? Or,
We were not on the hook in the original.
okay. Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Then your motion dies for lack of
Lack of a
second.
second, yeah.
So we'll move forward. I would like to move that we approve this MOU with the corrections on the signature page. And it's a great event. And I know that it's time sensitive. I'm glad Austin brought that up because I know you guys are running and gunning. It's not that far off before we do this, so that's my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? How soon can we get that signature page back so we can, because it really doesn't go into effect till we get the signature page back?
We can make the change this evening.
Okay.
Great.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I will call for the vote. All in signify approving the Aztec Highland Games Memorandum of Agreement, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Now we'll move on to item H, Resolution 2024-1421, Special Budget Resolution. I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Discussion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reason I brought this up is, once again, I worked 23 years for this city, and I've never, ever seen this happen. Why are we bringing small reimbursements to the commission for approval? Well, the only thing I ever remember us ever doing was grants. I mean, if we received a grant, that we as the governing body had to accept that grant. But shoot, I used to bill people $50,000, $60,000 when they tore out a piece of power line, and we never brought it to commission. We got the check, We invoiced them, we got the check, we put it back in the joint utilities account.
We got the check and we deposited it to the insurance recoveries. So the revenue is actually in there. But anytime we increase expenses, we're increasing the budget and it needs to come to the commission. We can't increase the budget without commission approval.
You mean that there wasn't enough money in his budget somewhere to cover $1,000?
Correct, yeah, not in my.
No, I cannot believe that.
In
That
that,
you couldn't find $1,000 somewhere, $1,400.
in that account, I didn't have it.
Well, move it.
Okay.
Right, you've got all these other accounts that you're allowed to do that, right? You run low on supplies, so you take it out of something else and fill in your supplies to the end of the year.
I understand your point, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, and I could do that. I just felt like at this point in March, we're pinching, I'm doing a lot of budget transfers as it is right now, and I didn't want to rob $1,400 to pay Paul.
Okay, that's why I brought it up. It just was so out of the ordinary that I wanted to talk about it. So, thank you.
Okay, I have one other question. In the corrections that we got tonight, in looking at what was put in our agenda, when you look at the adjusted budget, what we were given says $36,000. Now this has dropped to 2641, which equals the approved budget and the adjustment. Why the difference?
Why the difference, excuse me, Mayor and Commission, why the difference on the correction? Because we put the wrong number in there to begin with. The 36,000 was the incorrect number. We needed to put the beginning balance, what the adjustment was, and what the end balance was.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so the way this went down, timing was an issue, and we did not make that out correctly on that sheet, so we had to adjust that.
Okay, that's what I need to know.
So we did.
All right. Okay, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote on Resolution 2024-1421, Special Budget Resolution. Carla, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner King,
Aye.
Commissioner Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Randall,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem George,
Aye.
Mayor Padilla.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, that concludes our consent agenda. Do we have any citizens' input? Okay. No citizens' input. We'll move on to business items. We'll start with Resolution 2024-1417, accepting and approving the fiscal year 23 audit. I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve resolution 2024-1417, accepting and approving the FY
Second.
23 audit.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do you want to address this? I mean, it's,
Thank you, Mayor
okay.
and Commission. Yeah, we have a presentation that, to go over some of the highlights of the audit results. If I remember correctly, Mayor, I think you were at our exit conference
I
back in
was.
December. And we had a little bit more communication, but what I did is I just took highlights from that exit conference. And what that is auditing standards require that we make certain communications.
Are these the highlights?
No, those are not. That's the actual audit.
I'm
report.
laughing at you. Yeah, we got that today and, yeah, okay, go, I'm sorry.
It's actually been on the state auditor's website as a public document for a few weeks now.
Okay.
So the public has had access to that. So I do have, sorry I didn't get your humor.
And that's fine.
I do
A lot
have
of
just some
people don't.
highlights from the required communication. The very first thing I want to go over is, a lot of people throw out the word audit. The word audit was thrown out a little bit earlier. The standards that we have to follow, the audit, U.S., what we call auditing standards, really want us to spell what we do as an audit, because that term is just thrown out loosely all the time. So what we have here is our responsibilities under U.S. auditing standards, which is the top two boxes. And then also in the state of New Mexico, the state auditor requires us to follow what we call government auditing standards, or more commonly referred to as Yellow Book standards. And there's a reason why the state auditor wants us to do that. And we'll talk about that here in a moment. But if we go to the top two standards, auditing standards that we have to follow, what we were hired to do is express an opinion, as you'll see in that green box. And what that means is in the top red boxes, we give what's called reasonable assurance because we don't look at every transaction. We pick samples, statistical samples. We look at internal control processes and test those. But we're definitely not looking at every transaction. There's just no time in order to do that. The cost would just, it's not worth it. So when we give our opinion about the audit report that you just had, we're saying that those financial statements are what we call materially correct. And what that means is, if you were to take those financial statements, give it to a banker, those errors are not going to be big enough to change the banker's opinion on those financial statements, the errors that potentially could be there. And so that's what U.S. auditing standards require. Under the U.S. auditing standards, when it comes to internal controls, all those standards require we do is we take one transaction from each significant cycle. So example, payroll. We take one transaction, walk it through the system. We've met regular U.S. auditing standards. In New Mexico, the state auditor wants us to test internal controls. So therefore, they have us do what we call that government auditing standards, the Yellow Book audit, so that we can expand our testing. State audit rule also has a list of about 20 to 25 items that potentially could be applicable. Things like procurement, they want us to test. Travel and per diem. So there's specific items that the state auditor expands that we as auditors have to test in our state. And so under the Yellow Book audit, again, the state auditor wants us testing those internal controls, but as you can see at the bottom left, we're not testing enough internal controls to give an opinion on internal controls. We're just expanding our samples above what regular auditing standards require. And in that report, we just spell out how we're doing above and beyond what regular auditing standards require. And then we have to communicate, based on the Yellow Book, what we call significant matters. State audit rule, again, wants transparency. That word was thrown out earlier. They want any finding. They don't, New Mexico state audit rule says, we don't care if it rises to this level. We want it at the ground level. So any exceptions as we're going through and testing internal controls, we have to report, in your financial statements in the state of New Mexico. So we have expanded testing for that Yellow Book in our state, and we also have a lower threshold and more findings than what's required by the government auditing standards. So a little bit more background on what the standards we had to follow in completing your audit. The next slide is we have to look at independence every year. And so we go through, we have a list of probably about 10 pages going through questions. And when it comes to the Yellow Book, they're actually a little bit more stringent when it comes to independent requirements than just regular auditing standards. So not only do we have to follow regular auditing standards, we have to follow the Yellow Book. And based upon our assessment, we had no issues when it came to independence. The results of the audit, we issued what we call an unmodified opinion. And I put a clean opinion because to me, unmodified really doesn't say a whole lot, but it's exactly the type of report that the city wants to receive. What that report says is that financial statements are materially correct. And again, that's the type of report that you want to receive. The next page is talking about that Yellow Book report. Again, we're not giving an opinion. We're just spelling out how we're expanding our internal control testing, and then we have to talk about the results of that testing. And in New Mexico, we have that ground level. To be honest with you, the one finding that we had, if we were in another state, just across the border in Colorado, we wouldn't have to include it in their report. But in New Mexico, they want transparency, they want everything included. So we will have one finding that we'll talk about at the very end. This next communication, and really the reasons for it, is to let the commission know how are your financial records being maintained. You know, as auditors, are we having difficulty getting supporting documents? Are we having difficulty getting questions or answers to our questions? And as you can see here, the audit went smooth. We did not have any difficulties. And again, that required, or the communication from that is letting the commission know your records are being well maintained, so that when we ask those questions, we ask for those documents, we were able to give it, they were given to us in a timely manner. So again, the overall is your records are being maintained. This next slide is, I think, really important to the commission, because if we as auditors are having to come in and make lots of changes to your financial statements and your numbers, because there's a breakdown in internal controls and processes, we need to let you know. As you can see in that top box, we did not have a single adjustment that we had to post for your normal day-to-day operations. What happens there is it's really the communication is here to let you know, do you have a good structure established and it's being followed so that as you make financial decisions and you're looking at your budgets and analyzing that, is it giving you good data? And the answer is yes, we did not have a single adjustment. The only adjustment we had affects only 3 pages in your financial statement. So in our state, the state requires you, or they'll tell you, DFA will tell you that you're required to do a budget on a cash basis of accounting. Well, cash basis is not a part of GAAP. It's not generally accepted accounting principle. So what has to happen is you maintain your records, your budget, and do everything throughout the year on that cash basis. And that's how really the commission is responsible for overseeing the finances, is on that methodology. What has to happen is your staff has to put together, what are the adjustments taking it from that cash basis accounting to what we call modified accrual. And then we also we have 3 pages in your financial statements that are full accrual. As a part of the full accrual, you have para liability. And so in the prior year, the para liability is done by the state of New Mexico on an annual basis. They basically take I think it's like $7 billion that is underfunded, and they allocate that out to every participant in that, in para. So what happens is we have to, on a certain set of financial statements, record a huge liability. Well, timing, because they have to do actuarial studies, it takes time. It's always a year behind. And so what happens is those payments that you make during the year, you need to get credit for those. Those need to show up really as a reduction to the overall liability in your financial statement. Well, last year, those particular additions were not recorded by the auditor, and so we had to kind of true that up to get it to roll forward from the prior year. So again, that didn't affect your day-to-day operations. It didn't affect your cash basis accounting. It only affected that full accrual accounting in the financial statements that we have to present. But we do need to talk about that we did have a $400,000 adjustment to your para liability. Other than that, and I think the most important thing is on how you as a commission is responsible for overseeing your budget. We did not have a single adjustment, so the numbers that are getting reported to you are accurate. The next 2 slides are very similar. If we had disagreements with management, we'd have to let you know, and I'm happy to say that we didn't. Again, the audit went smooth. And very similar, if management did disagree with us, went out, and I call it opinion shop. They went out to another auditor to get a different opinion than what we said, we'd have to let you know, and that, again, did not happen. The audit went extremely smooth, and we did not have anything that rose to that level. The last thing is findings. We did have one finding this year. Back in 2022, there was a reconciliation process that happened with your detailed listing of your capital assets. With your old finance manager, those journal entries and adjustments didn't get posted, and so your internal records also didn't get updated. There's already a plan in place to get that reconciliation updated for this year, and I think this will be a one-time exception. So that adjustment by the previous finance manager just caused some issues this year when it came to capital assets. Nothing that was significant, so we were able to, again, adjust that, get it figured out, but your internal records need to be updated, and those adjustments that were identified in the past need to be identified and made sure that they're put in your records. Last year, you had 2 findings. You had some reconciliations that weren't being done, and this year, they've all been corrected. And then last year, your audit was late, and this year it was submitted to the state auditor by the due date.
I did not, Chris.
Oh, I'm
I'm just
sorry.
very happy.
You know, what I'd like to say, when it comes to findings, you're going to have them. There are so many transactions that flow through the city's records. Things are going to happen once in a while. What you want to see as a commissioner, how are we dealing with them? Are they staying around 2-3 years? You know, sometimes the audit process, you know, we don't get it to the state auditor until December. It's almost 6 months after year end. By the time they do their review process, here we are in March. So you're 9 months into a process of the current year. So sometimes it takes a couple years to get them resolved. But what you want to see as a commission, you're not seeing 3, 4, 5-year-old findings that just keep happening year after year. Stuff's going to happen. How is management responding to that? And as you can see, over the last couple of years, they've been responding, and they haven't been repeated. So, again, I think that's a testament of tone from the top, from the commission. making sure, as the manager, let's deal with these issues, and that seems to be the tone here. And that's really what you want to see as a commission.
That works. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you. That was a great report, and I'm glad that we are okay. I do, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that we've seen this issue that we've had with our depreciation schedules, and that's what you're talking about. And I think we've had that in the past, but I know we're trying to correct it, and I understand that. I mean, I think it came up last year also during the audit.
I think it all got reconciled last year. It's just those reconciliation processes
Yeah.
just didn't get into the
Time-
records.
right.
So I think it's just a little blip that should be corrected pretty easily.
Okay.
And I know, speaking with Jeannie, she's got a plan to get that taken care of here in the near future.
Good. Any other comments, questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, then, we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2024-1417, accepting and approving the fiscal year 23 audit. Carla, will you call the roll?
Commissioner King,
Aye.
Commissioner Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Randall,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem George,
Aye.
Mayor Padilla,
Aye.
motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We'll move on to item B, Resolution 2024-1420, East Aztec Arterial Phase 2 Local Contribution. I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Carla, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Randall,
Aye.
Commissioner Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner King,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem George,
Aye.
Mayor Padilla,
Aye.
motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Move on to item C, East Aztec Arterial Phase 2 Local Contribution Commitment Letter. Again, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve this as well.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. It's not a resolution, so.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to item D, oil and gas permit, OG-01, submitted by Hillcorp Energy to plug abandoned Hartman 23 number 1 gas well. I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would just kind of like to know, where is this?
Sounds good. Hello, Commissioners. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ramon Hancock. I'm the Senior Surface Landman for Hillcorp. So the Hartman 23 number 1, if you're going south of Aztec, you pass where Hillcorp has their, on 550, where Hillcorp has their big SWD station. Go on your left-hand side of the road, you top the hill, start to drop back down, that's going to be the entrance road.
So it's behind the hill?
Yes, sir. You
Oh,
can't,
okay.
you can't see it from any resident. I think we're 6,300 feet from the closest business, and we're approximately 1,300 feet from the closest resident. So it's not downtown, it's not like the one we had by NW.
Right, and see, that's why I was wondering where this is.
Exactly, and we're not gonna be on it for a month, I hope, so. Yes, sir, it's out of sight from the public. There's a few residents that are gonna be within 1,500 feet of the well. Other than that, it's pretty much as far removed from the city of Aztec.
And it's my
as
understanding you're plugging and abandoning this well.
possible. Yes, sir, yep, we are.
Yeah,
Yep,
okay.
we're moving on. It's a private lease. The surface held by Gwen Haven Resources. So once we plug it, we'll get with Gwen Haven, see how they want us to reclaim the site, and we'll move forward with their instructions.
Okay, great, thank you. That's all I have.
Absolutely.
Any further questions?
None.
Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item D, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
All right, thank you.
All right. Now we'll move on to item E, project participation agreement between City of Aztec and Robin Kelly, AKA the Lenore qualifying entity. I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, at one point in the past, we had in our staff's report basically saying attorney approved as to summary, maybe not to the agreement, but just to the summary. Is that something we just want, that we want spelled out, or is that something we are going to assume always happens?
You're gonna explain that to me.
Yeah, you're gonna have to explain.
I don't know. When did you become an attorney? You know? Okay, explain what you're asking.
At one time in the staff report, it would, Larry Thrower would put in, it would be in there that he had reviewed and approved to form. That's the words that Rick used. And not that he was weighing in on the agreement, he's weighing in on that the agreement.
Was approved to form.
Yes.
Right.
So, and we are doing that, but I'm not seeing, or I'm reading through it, that it's automatic, and do we want that to be in our staff summaries?
Oh, in the staff summary.
Summary,
Yes,
right.
in the
Okay.
summaries.
As that Nan has approved it to form, but not so much as the content.
That makes sense now.
Right.
Yeah. I would like to see that in the staff summaries myself. So,
Because that way, as commission, for those of you guys that don't understand what we're talking about, is that we may feel that we want to bring on board specific person to review the content, right? Not just the form of how it was written and that our protections are there, but the content itself,
Yeah,
right?
if I could, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioner Crowley, to your specific, just opinion or what you'd like to see. So that, I'm just, to clear the record, the ordinance that we initially passed on February 27th, I drafted most of that because that's basically, and of course with the help of Ed, pulling from the existing ordinance. If you remember Chapter 30, Ordinance and Economic Development, within that ordinance requires us to pass an ordinance for these specific projects. The drafting of this project participation agreement and the consensual lien was done by our city attorney. And I had phoned her and talked to her specifically to ask that she draft them. Now, I sent her what I felt was, you know, we need to put in there, or basically here again, based on our ordinance. But she did draft. And this, what I'm hearing is that this may have been drafted by me, and that in the past, an attorney looked at it and said, this is approved to form. But just to clear the record, the city attorney drafted these, thank God, because otherwise that probably got us in trouble. But I hear your call to now include this, and so in going
just in the
forward,
staff summary.
I'll include it in the staff summary.
Right, right, and,
If I may?
yeah, well, if I may, Mr. Mayor, yeah, this is to you and staff, right, is that, because Denver, everybody's gonna have sometime some kind of
Roger,
agreement.
we'll make sure it gets put in staff reports.
Okay, I have a question for our attorney. In looking through this, I'm all in favor of us doing this, but should the consensual lien agreement be signed by the same people or by this? Because there again, it's got city manager.
Mayor, commissioners, you can make it anyone you want it. I mean, you can sign it. It's a lien.
Excuse me, I had a death in the family this afternoon, so it's going. But anyway, I'm just wondering because you have one signature and then you have, in the participation agreement, you have another signature. Should they match? Does it matter if they match?
Well, we went round and round on this, just like I think with some of these other agreements that we've got some clarity on who signs what. And I think we've kind of grounded that out. Typically on any lien, utility liens generally, the city clerk signs those liens, takes them down to the county clerk's office and files. And in conference with Carla, she states, you know, that this is what I do. They ID me, so I have to physically go do this, even though I'm signed as city clerk. They need to verify that she's the city clerk. So we have changed the documents, the consensual lien document, to have the city clerk as signatory, because she will be custodial record, she will be the one to file this.
This doesn't have city clerk.
I know, and so when we, so I'm really glad that this came up, because what I was told, the only part of these two, you know, the consensual lien and the participation agreement was who signs what. And what we concluded today as a consensual lien, the city clerk needs to sign. And that was changed so that when we sign, but it doesn't affect publishing or doesn't affect the document itself, from what I was told. Now, the project participation agreement, same thing. We had initially the city manager's signature on there. We had counsel from the city attorney to add the mayor because that's really the way it was always done. And so we have both names on there. And from what I understand, we can change that as well before we actually make this, we have the qualifying entities, the applicants sign. We can make these adjustments.
Mayor, may I make a comment?
Please.
I would just ask staff in the future, if there's a change, let me know so I can put it in front of the commission. Just. if
Well,
there's
we're
a
going
change-
round and round on this.
I know, but
I
if
mean,
there's a change from the document and we have it before the meeting starts, we'd like to put it in front of the commission so they have it in their hands.
but, yeah, okay.
I understand. If it comes down to the wire and it doesn't, then we're in this situation, but.
Well, and I'm looking at the consensual lien. That document's fine.
Okay.
But I was looking at the consensual lien is, the signatures are different and you're saying have the,
Yes.
that's what I'm questioning.
And the reason, and again, this was just because that's what the city clerk always does. Here again, the city manager, if he was to sign the lien, would have to he would have to go record it. He would have to provide proof that he recorded it.
Okay.
And by state statute, that's why you have a custodial of records, which is their city clerk. So I apologize that we didn't get this before you, but, I mean, we were grappling with this for.
So what you're telling me is that signature line on consensual lien should be signed by, the city clerk and not by Jeff?
Yes, and it's been changed. So that
It
when you
has?
go to sign, so.
Okay, you have the,
Okay, now I'm starting to understand.
Okay,
There
yeah.
are-
yeah,
Okay,
okay.
yes.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm looking at it here.
I apologize we didn't get that to you, but, that's why we have.
Okay, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
And Mayor, Commissioners, this is the first document of its kind, as I understand it, following this ordinance. And the whole concept of a consensual lien is a new concept. So I can see why staff was struggling with the signature authority there, but, I mean, we're used to utility liens, but this is actually a consensual lien. So it's not a hostile lien, it's agreed upon lien, so
Right.
we're in new territory, but I think we got it figured out.
Okay, and we're okay with having the city clerk?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I don't have an issue with that. I just was wondering that, there's a difference here, so, okay. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor of item E, project participation agreement between the city and Robin Kelly, a.k.a. the Lenore. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Move on to item F, which is the same agreement, but to Lonnie Joe and Dana Bixler at Rustic Creations. Again, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the project participation agreement.
I'll second.
Okay, again, we're going to change, you've already changed that signature line on the consensual, okay. Okay, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, forgive me, but I really want to take this time to congratulate you, John, our president, for the Economic Development Advisory Board. You guys just did a first. We finally completed this process, but it is a first. I mean, this fund was established in 2017. These folks are going to get reimbursed on the incredible work that especially the Lenore's done, if you haven't been in there lately, and to save one of our most historic and landmarks of our business. So I think you, Jeff, with, when I came in was a marching order for me to get this done. And I'm really happy that you guys did that tonight. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks to the EDAB board for all they did on this, and there were some great presentations that came out of that meeting, or those meetings. Okay, we'll move on to reports. Austin, do you have a report?
No, sir, I don't.
Jim?
No, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I do, Mayor, and I have quite a list. Number one I want to start out with is, I saw that we sent out an RFP for IT services. And I'm very interested in what are we doing with that? What are we doing? It was my understanding that we had done an audit and there were some things that needed fixed or we wanted to fix. And I just assumed that we would get on those things. And then I see this come out, and at first I was like, wow. And then the more I read it, I was like, well, holy cow, this is basically taking over the whole department. So, and then I read through it again, and I says, this is well written. Until then I saw that there was 35 or more questions to the RFP, which from my experience, when you get over 3 or 4, it's not a well-written RFP, but I'm not an IT specialist, so I didn't know. Anyway, my question is, tonight, is what are we doing?
Okay, Mayor, Commission, if I can. We came before the commission and told you we had a problem with firewall and backup, and that we were very concerned that we needed to make a quick decision and move on that. But the instruction was different, that we go out and look for the firewall and the backup. We went back, and when we were designing the RFP, we were advised that most companies would not look at an RFP just for firewall and backup. They would want to talk about service contracts, particularly if we're talking about renting stuff. So we developed this RFP, put it out, and I believe the way it reads is that we can pick and choose from these items of what we're going to do. So what we're looking for specifically is a firewall and backup installation, purchase, possibly rental, and have them to come in and install it, and then a maintenance contract on the firewall and backup. But we also put in the RFP, just in case we had an emergency or we needed to have somebody take over the desktop, we put that in there.
That they were there.
For that concession.
Okay,
And so
okay.
we are to the point now where we've gotten all the questions answered. We've gotten back all of the submissions, and we're grading them at this time, and then we will interview the 4 potential candidates.
Okay,
Right.
so,
And
all
then we'll
right.
determine we'll determine what we need, and then we'll come to you and say, this is what we think we need and what the cost amount is.
Right,
Yeah.
because to follow up with that, I'm looking at the budget, the draft budget you gave us, right? And I see nothing in IT that has changed. And I'm like, well, okay, once again, what are we doing? Because if we're gonna hire out IT services, I would have thought, I saw 50, 100, 150,000 in contract services or something in that budget. It
Right.
wasn't there.
Right, so we still think this is it's almost close to an emergency situation. We've held off on doing the roof on this building, which we did put back into the FY25. So that would be a portion of what we're talking about if we were to do it now. Then we'd have to look for other sources, just like we were suggesting with Mr. Dobie. We're going to go comb through the budget and see if we can find it before we would bring it to you as a budget resolution and ask for general fund cost on that. If we can't get it all done in this time, then we will go back and budget. The budget you see for IT right now is Wallace's submission. I've added nothing to that, and I tried to make clear that that is just a working budget. So we haven't added anything because we really don't know where we are. We don't know what the cost is. We don't know exactly all the services.
So, okay,
we
so
have.
if I may, can I ask, I'm sure that our IT director saw the results of the audit, and just knowing him as I know him, I would say he got on at least something of that to try to make things better as that happened.
Not
I
aware
mean,
of
we've been a month and a half, and you're telling me nothing has happened?
I'm not aware of that. He's not come to me and reported that he's doing something for the firewall or backup. Other than possibly he's added an application or something. And I did see today a request for a quote, but I'm unaware of what he's doing with that.
I mean, that just concerns me. Can we ask?
I don't know, can we?
Sure.
At the beginning of this year, I did put in the budget for a firewall. We were looking at a PF sense when I put that budget together for the 24. And so I am already currently using that budget line item to put in a firewall. I have a contractor working with right now, and we're using what they call next gen firewall. And like I mentioned to Jeff earlier, I am putting in also some MSP type software, which will allow me to take over remote administration and everything that I need to do. So that's what it is now.
So since, I'm gonna say a month and a half ago, when this audit thing happened, you have built up the firewall?
It's not built out completely right now.
No, I mean, you've improved it.
Yes, yes. Yeah, the firewall we have in place is old, but I do have one that's being built. It's on the block, so it's being put together right now, so to speak. I have to take all the configuration settings from the current firewall we have in place to apply to the new firewall. And that is a more current firewall that we have, which is Barracuda Network Systems. So,
Okay, so in this case,
It's in process.
you are working on it, and just the manager didn't know, I guess?
I'm sorry?
The manager wasn't informed that you had been working on it?
I mentioned one thing, but it wasn't, it was clear. I was getting quotes, as you saw, and then once I got a great deal on it, then I swooped in.
Move forward?
Yeah,
Okay,
but it has been a budget item for this fiscal year.
okay. So, all right, well, that explains a lot, thank you.
Okay.
Because when I read it, I was like, what are we doing, right? Because it was so vast, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mayor, Commission, I'll sit down with Wallace tomorrow, and we'll make sure that we're speaking the same language. Maybe a communication breakdown there.
Okay.
Okay, you have more?
I do. And this is just one of my bugaboos. Back in January, again in February, I asked the manager to get us a new flow chart of the departments, all their positions, that kind of thing. The last one I've got is a year old.
Yes, sir.
A lot has changed.
Yes, sir.
So could I please ask again that, now we're going into budget, I want to know, and I'm sure these others want to know, you know, how things flow and how many people are in each department,
Yep.
right?
Mayor, Commission, yes. Ed and I have been working on that. We should have that ready for you very soon.
Okay, I lost my page. That was 2. Okay, oh, yes, I noticed there's a couple of our agreements, and this may be actually a question for our attorney. It talks about when, if we were to give a 30-day notice to terminate an agreement. Who gives that notice? Does the manager come to us and as commission we say, yes, we agree, terminate this contract? Or does the manager just say it, or can a department head just say, I don't want to do this no more? What's the process of that?
Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, if it's a commission-approved agreement, then the commission gives the notice.
Should
Okay.
come in front of us, I would think,
Yeah,
as a business item, to shut that agreement down. That's the way that I think it's been done in the past.
okay, great. Well, that was just a question.
Okay.
All right, when are we going to circle back and talk about the COLA increases? You gave us a lot of information. I was going through that, and I've got some ideas I'd like to throw out when it comes to COLA. What was your plans there?
Excuse me, Mayor, Commission, would you like to have another workshop? We'd be happy to do that.
I mean, I would. I would like to throw out some
Would
ideas.
you like that to be in the next meeting? We can do that.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on budget, we're starting there, right? And that's the biggest part of it, right, is
Yes, it's a very big part of it, yes, sir.
increases?
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to sit down and talk to you about that.
Well, and that's one reason, just for clarification, why I asked the question about why do we had a had a resolution approving the 3% when I still want to, I don't want to lock us to 3%. If it's possible to financially, and we can get the correct information to us, maybe we can do more. Or if we can't do, rather than lock us to, and I think that's kind of the way we came across I came across and asked for the 3% over the 2, but I was absolutely not ready just to lock us into that, because that was just my request. I understand the fact that the resolution was to clarify my request, but I'm not locked on 3% yet. If financially we can do more, I'm gonna do all we can do for our employees. If we can't do 3%, I want to see, I'd like to see the difference.
What we can do.
That was the clarification.
We'll start to work on that, and we'll do a workshop next time.
Okay.
Okay, and my last thing, Mr. Mayor, when I was going through that preliminary budget, I saw a note in there it says 50K for O'Reilly's. Do we want to keep that?
Yes, sir.
I'm wondering if you guys understand what that is.
No, we don't.
Okay, what happened was when O'Reilly's built, their head corporation gave $50,000 to the city to help develop the lot on either side of O'Reilly's. So there's an agreement out there somewhere, and it states this $50,000 is to be kept basically in escrow and to help get utilities to the next person who built.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, and I think I do.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
One of those mysteries that
Right.
with change in finance, we just don't have a history of it.
Okay. When you have questions, ask. Was here a long time. All right, that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Commissioner King?
Your report.
I have just one quick report. I attended the EDAB meeting last Thursday, and there was a presentation made by a young man that just kind of blew me away. I mean, this young man, he's a go-getter. He's purchased some property on the south end of town. How he's going to ever accomplish it, I won't see it in my lifetime, but it was really exciting to see a young entrepreneur come in and do a presentation to this board and actually get people excited and asking questions, because this growth is what's important to us. So I just want to give that report. Does any department heads have a report?
Mayor and Commission, to tag on that, on the EDAB, and I'd like to comment on the economic activity that we're having. I brought it up in our Economic Development Advisory Board meeting. What I think is there's a definite uptick in interest. I'm getting calls practically daily, at least 2 or 3 times during the week, that I get calls inquiring about either our code or what they can and can't do, and there's a lot of interest. Just yesterday, the Mesa Verde, the 215 Mesa Verde apartments that was abandoned for a long time, and a lot of criminal activity going on there, was closed by an investor out of Utah, and they actually had a crew out there already working, if you want to drive by there and see. The house in Cocopelli has finished. That was on Little Rabbit. There is another house that will be coming in. I'm expecting the plans any day to be constructed. We've got the 2 houses on Lover's Lane that continue to be constructed. There was 3 in Ancient Trails. And then today I got an email from David McWilliams on Pioneer Heights, and they are moving forward with their paving and finishing up their improvements so that we can bring the dedication of those improvements to the city to start the warranty period so that they can start building. If you look on Realtor.com, they're already advertising floor plans and houses for them to be built. On the south side of town, there is a pad that you might have seen being built in a fenced property that's on the other side of Legion, across from the Motor Speedway. That's a commercial building to be erected at some point. I'm waiting for plans for that. The Webb, formerly known as Webb Farmers Insurance, that's on the corner of 516 and 550 building, has been purchased, and from what I understand, there's some medical facilities going to be going in there, in the medical offices. That'll be a full gut remodel. The assisted living up off of Oliver, That is over a $1.5 million project that started with a demolition this last winter and is in full remodel mode there as well. So there's others that I could speak of, but there's a lot of activity. There was a building on South Main, 123 is the address, right across from Rubio's, that white building, that went up for sale on Thursday, and it's under contract as of Saturday, for it, and it was about $200,000. It was kind of, to me, it was a smoking deal. Myself and Dustin went to the property today, met with the potential new owners. I won't disclose who that is, but once it comes out, you all know who they are. It needs some work. There's some pigeons that lived in that top floor for a long time, but it's an incredible building that really has more cosmetic work to be done to get some rentals in. There's 5 one-bedroom rentals, the front commercial, and the upstairs, once it's cleaned up, is really going to offer a lot of potential. And it listed for $199,000, so, which is dirt cheap for something of that significance. And it's catty-cornered from the Lenore. So we're chipping away at filling vacant buildings along Main Street. The chamber just occupied one of the offices literally across from the Lenore. And then these folks that bought this building on Main Street, that white building, I know they'll have it occupied pretty quickly. So it's really, really good to see. And a lot of this is coming from, if you've noticed, I've been here almost 8 months, and almost every meeting we have a policy change of some sort. And it is in an effort to take away that business unfriendliness, which has never been about persons or personality, because we're all very friendly here. It is about our code, and that's getting cleaned up. And so, anyway, I wanted to report that. I do have one other comment. I hope I'm not speaking out of line, but I did look at how you are the Board of Finance, and I just sitting there when going through this, and it just felt like, I've not only seen this movie before, but I've been in it. And if just one suggestion I have, because comment you made, Commissioner Colby, is sometimes you need to strike where the iron's hot, and we haven't seen interest rates like this in a long time that can put some money to work, is potentially consider that forming a subcommittee, and not that all of you have enough committees that you're in, but that way, as a Board of Finance, as the commission, you don't have to be formally meet to make decisions or to be involved with the investments of the city. As a subcommittee, or some of you choose, because some of you have the wherewithal and have some background in finance, that on behalf of the commission sit with staff to help hash out. And I think Commissioner King may have been involved or had some insight on how we should invest in the past, and I think that's just kind of strength in numbers and how we could work together. Again, I don't mean to speak out of turn, but it was done. I've been through that before, and it worked out great when interest rates were actually something to look at and invest in, because oftentimes they're not. And when you have the money to do it, that's just a suggestion, is having a subcommittee that every quarter meet to kind of look at them and maybe hash it out there. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you.
Questions?
Any?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Commissioner. Let's see y'all. Sorry, the cell came out. To give an update on the library, our diverse perspectives and talents share the impact of our library services. The work of the staff is often complex, even messy. However, though, policies, procedures, and processes are all welcome to conduct the meaningful and difficult work of the library. By identifying shared values and the impact of free people reading freely, provide viable bridges to a profound partnership with our community. Our stories are worth sharing. The joy, impact, connection, and development made possible by the library should not be lost amid historic, social, political, and economic strife. We must empathetically share good library news, so here's an update. I've been invited to speak at the American Library Association Conference in San Diego by its president, Emily Drabinski. The conference brings an attendance of approximately 25,000. The conference will bring together thousands of librarians and library staff, educators, authors, publishers, friends of the library, trustees, special guests, and exhibitors to the world's largest library event. On March 7th, we participated in the McCoy Elementary School Family Literacy Night, and on April 18th, we will host the Mosaic Academy Scholastic Book Fair for a week. We've also been doing some research to provide a cultural view for Nichols State University, Colorado University Boulder. Our library functions as an economic, educational, and political cornerstone of society, making the library essential to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We advocate for robust resourcing to ensure our library continues to support our communities and help them thrive. We welcome all and is appreciated by most. I heard that. Through promoting the library by interacting and partnering with schools, universities, organizations, help us to spread the word that we're here to help. Staff continues to develop to meet the needs of the community, and we're constantly surveying to find out those specific needs of our customers. We're grateful for the works delivered that help spread compassion. And this one's my favorite. The lost poem of Dr. Seuss. I love my job. I love my job. I need the pay. I love it more and more each day. I love my boss. He is the best. I love his bosses and all the rest. I love my office and its location. I love to have to go on vacation. I love my furniture, drab and gray, and piles of paper that grow each day. I think my job is really swell. There's nothing else I would love so well. I love to work among my peers. I love their leers, jeers, and sneers. I love my computer and its software. I hug it often, though it won't care. I love each program and every file. I'd love them more if they'd work a while. I'm happy to be here. I am. I'm the happiest person of the city. Yes, I am. I love this work. I love these chores. I love the meetings with deadly bores. I love my job. I'll say it again. I even love those friendly men. These friendly men who've come today to listen to what I have to say. Profound.
Good.
That's it.
Thank you, Angela. That's very good.
Well, and congratulations on going to San Diego. That is awesome.
Yeah.
It's the biggest library compliment I find that we can get for Aztec when we're the only ones besides Flo Trujillo. She'll be there to promote the arts council that she's involved with. But we're the only ones that were invited from this inn. And I thought it would be a Zoom meeting, so I was excited. And when they said, no, we need you here, we'll be on a panel with 3 other libraries from back east, New York and so forth. So promoting the city of Aztec, promoting the resources we have here. We have been designing the things that we're trying to do for the community. One is educating them about the water situation and how to best deal with that. Getting private donors to donate food to help those that need it. Now we have the justice station to help those learn to be responsible in appearing before courts without having to worry or in stress about trying to get there. And from that point on, we're looking at other avenues we're going to travel down, but it all paints a picture of where we're trying to be sustainable for the community.
It's great.
We appreciate you, thank you.
Any other department head have a report?
Mayor, if I may, can I give a report?
Yeah, I was just gonna call on you. City manager, would you give your report?
Thank you. Mayor and Commission, as requested during some of our meetings, we wanted to get the word out about recycling. So this has gone out as a flyer.
Oh, great.
Okay. I don't know exactly when or what month. Was it just the last one? Okay. And then we were asked to promote the 65 and older. And that also went out as a flyer, is that correct, Jenny? And then it is in the utilities office and staff has been trained to work it. Yeah.
It's on the counter when they come up and they find people to take one of the flyers.
It's also being distributed every day at the senior center.
Okay, thank you, Charles. And then we had a request from one of our prominent citizens to call a town hall meeting. If the commission would approve that, I'm suggesting April 15th at 6 p.m. The questions that seem to be on this person's mind were about things in general, but I think some of this, what we're doing with the LEDA money, the local LEDA money, and I think people are interested in what we're doing and they want to come in and talk about it and see how the program works. And I'm sure there'll just be those folks that want an update on what we're doing.
April 15th won't work for me.
Yeah, that's tax day.
Yeah, well,
Okay?
that day won't work for me.
Anybody want to recommend?
22nd?
Okay?
I've got a board meeting that day, 22nd.
In the evening?
In the evening, yeah, it starts 5:30, Echo.
Next?
Does it have to be a Monday?
No, I'm just whenever you're comfortable.
What about the 17th?
Wednesday, the 17th? That works for me.
I can do the 17th.
You?
I have a procedure on the 15th.
You're not gonna be that week's out?
Yeah, no, I can do it on the 17th. I
Oh,
should be
okay.
fine. I should be fine.
Am I on the wrong calendar? I see that as a Sunday.
April?
That's a Wednesday.
Okay, sorry, must be in the wrong year. So, okay. The 17th, 6 p.m.?
And is this gonna be an open forum?
Yeah.
Type
We'll just
meeting to
invite
meet?
them in, and of course, we'll advertise, all commissioners can, or if not, I think mostly the questions will be towards staff, but, you know, we would like everybody present and understand not everyone can make it. Just gonna have them come in and we'll talk to them, see what the questions are. Update.
Okay,
I like it.
that's fine. Send a reminder if you would, please.
Yeah. Will do, thank you.
Any other department heads? Hearing none, we're going to move into closed session. We are now going into closed session pertaining to New Mexico State Statute, Section 10-15-18, parentheses 2, limited personnel matters, city manager. We'll start in 10 minutes.
You say aye.
Oh, this is Mayor Padilla voting aye.
Mayor Pro Tem George voting aye.
Colby King voting aye.
Jim Crowley voting aye.
Austin Randall voting aye.
We'll start in 10 minutes.